So the thermometer in the greenhouse says it's over 100 degrees. Of course, the greenhouse holds in a little bit of heat. The windows are open in it, the door's open, so I don't know how close that is, but it's pretty hot here. Heat index probably, I don't know, 106, 110, somewhere around there. So the chickens are really struggling. Anytime you get over 100 degrees, the chickens are going to really have a tough time. 90 degrees, they can have problems if they're free ranging, they're in the sun. Of course, ours is shaded. So what I've been doing is I've been giving them well water. Well water is pretty chilly. I did this one about an hour ago. I put water in these wash machines, wash tubs, whatever you want to call them. And that one says 71 degrees. So I would imagine they're 70. I would imagine it's coming out of the well probably. They're 69. Coming out of the well about 65 degrees maybe. Yesterday when I did that, so yesterday when I gave them the cold water, they drank that water instantly, like they knew it was cold. I don't know how they knew that, but they left their bucket, which I always leave in there just so they got water, and they went right to the cold water. They seemed to do better after that. They were a little bit more lively, was able to eat their food, so I gave them 1 gallon of water, cold water like that, at noon, and then I did it again at 3. It's the Brahmas I'm really worried about. Of course, they're still pretty young, but they got their adult feathers now, and Brahmas are winter birds. So if it starts getting too much colder, we're going to either put some sort of tub in there so they can cool off, or I'm just going to go in there like I did last year with the meat birds and put them in cooler water. Now, you don't want to put them in well water right out of the well. You want that to settle overnight. Otherwise, it'll shock their system. They'll be so cold. Last year, I'd get a bucket of water the night before, and then the next day around noon, I'd leave the water in the shade. It would be, you know, in the 90s. The water would be 80s or 90s, and then you could put them in there. And they really enjoyed that. Even the meat birds enjoyed that. Now, I've been talking about preppers a lot lately, and it seems like the videos are doing really well when I talk about preppers and SHTF. I think the algorithm actually picks up on the term SHTF because these prepper channels do so well. I think they kind of categorize my videos into prepping videos, although I'm not a prepper. I've said this many times, and I'm off-gridder. Yesterday, I think I mentioned that I see this as a big difference. I don't stockpile. I live the life. I'm already living a life where there is SHTF. Of course, I have some conveniences, gasoline, and I can go to the grocery store, but I don't have to. Just yesterday, we learned that one of the farm supply stores near us is out of chicken food, completely out. They don't know when they're going to get any in. So Carolyn and I just started discussing. We haven't went and checked. What are we going to do? Well, we can buy livestock feed. Of course, the percentages are not high in livestock feed, but there's plenty of it. So we'll get the livestock feed. We know the chicks will eat it. They've been eating it. And we'll mix in sunflower seeds. I've been showing you Carolyn's sunflower seed mix. I don't have it on me right now, but she grows sunflower seeds in little bottles. She can turn about 50 pounds of sunflower seeds into about 250 pounds. So we're going to mix that in with the livestock feed if they don't have any chicken food. Then with the chickens, the full-grown chickens laying eggs, they're going to need calcium. We have calcium, so that's not a big deal. And you can buy calcium pretty cheap. Also, we have the eggs that Carolyn smashes up. Of course, I don't have them out here either, but she smashes up all the eggs we eat. And then we have all these weeds and grasses that we can throw them. Now, I know everybody's going to say, well, you should free range them, you should free range them. And that's kind of the point of this video today. One of the things preppers don't think about is what can happen that you're not expecting. Whereas we live the life. We know what's happening because we got to deal with it today. Whereas preppers, they would have to deal with it when it's too late. And I keep saying you got to test your preps, you got to test your preps. But they can't test their preps because if they start testing, they're going to dip into their stockpile. And when you dip in your stockpile, let's say you're testing it for a month. So now you're depleted a month in your stockpile, and then next month, SHTF actually happens, and now you have a month less worth of food or stockpile. What are you going to do? But on the other hand, if you're not living the life where you don't really need a stockpile, I've told you about our canned food. We got a year's worth of canned food, but that's not a stockpile. That's just us preserving our food that we already grew or made. We rotate that in. I told you the other day that there is a bear in the area. Of course, it's just hearsay, nothing confirmed. Well, today Carolyn got on a Facebook group of this area. There was a bear exactly 3 miles away from us. They took a video of it. I could actually saw where it was, what stores were nearby, and the landmarks and all that. So it's close. I looked how far a bear will range, and a female bear will range 3 to 4 miles, so we're right in range. And now male will range a little bit further. So it doesn't matter what it is, male or female, we're right in range. Well, I've told you before that we don't have a system in place to deal with bears. We can keep out all other predators. Cats, bobcats, raccoons, possums, all of it. We've gotten it really down pat. But they started reintroducing bears somehow or another in the state of Missouri, maybe 20 years ago. And now there's actually a hunting season for them. So they're must be pretty thick in Missouri. Bears used to be, way back when, indigenous to Missouri. But most of my life, I'd never seen a bear. Didn't even know they were in Missouri. Of course, when I would travel, I saw bears, but not in Missouri. Well, now this is becoming a concern, and I really don't have any way of dealing with them other than an electric fence. I started looking up electric fence, and they actually don't take very much wattage. They use about 33 watts per day. Now the incubator, just to put this in perspective, we were worried that the egg incubator, the chicken incubator, would use too much electric. Well, it used 50 watts an hour, 30 to 50 watts an hour. Depending on whether the heater was on or not, it would use 50 watts if the heater was on. It used probably 20 watts when it was off. So you weren't using all 50 watts per hour. So you weren't using all 50 watts per hour, but every hour that heater was on, you were using 50 watts. But it was much higher, much higher than an electric fence, using 33 watts per day. So that means we can run it off the solar panels. So we're gonna go to Orscheln's, our little farm store, and look these up. I bought one in the past. I was trying to keep goats out of the garden. We had goats. I mean, everybody tells me you gotta have goats. I can't stand goats, but we're trying to keep the goats out of the garden. So this goat walked right up to the fence, pressed up against it, and grabbed a tomato plant. Didn't stop her at all. So I grabbed the wire thing. Oh, it must not be working. I grabbed it, not even thinking, and boy, it hit me. So, you know, they wouldn't keep the goats away. We want to go and actually shop and see what will actually keep bears out. I went on Amazon, and the only thing you really find on Amazon, they do have livestock electric fence, but they are mainly for pets, dogs. I can't imagine anybody actually zapping their dog, but I guess they do. We're going to look and see and ask questions. Will this keep a bear out? I don't know, maybe we even have to go to Home Depot. So we're not going to need a lot of fence. We're just going to need enough fence to get around the chicken coop area. That way, hopefully, we can keep a bear out. Now, the other thing we've done is we got this little squeaky alarm, that's motion detector, that goes off. And I shut it off for a while because we haven't had a problem with wildlife dealing with the chickens anymore. It's just not been a big deal. We brought it up here to keep people away from us, but down there I hadn't worried about it. So I bought another one of those squealy devices, and I'm gonna put it down there by the chickens, again, to keep the bears out. Bulletproofed our chicken run pretty much. Now this is just another example of what I've been trying to say about preppers. I get that there are people who call themselves preppers, but they'll raise a garden and they'll have chickens, because I hear these comments in the comment section, but I'm talking about the YouTube channels. These guys are not doing that. They're stockpiling. They're living in suburbia, telling you how they're just great preppers, and they're thumping their chest, telling you, this is what you gotta do. And they always got that old grumpy voice telling you how to do it, because we're men. Well, I guess I'm not a man. I mean, obviously people have called me a wussy, changing the W to a P, for canning food. And I actually heard a prepper say that canning is a women's job. Don't worry about canning. You need to worry about a smoker. You gotta have a smoker. But smokers don't even preserve food. So they've never even tried it. They're just telling you how great they are. All the while telling you to buy stuff for SHTF that is only making you feel good about SHTF, like, oh yeah, I'm going to survive. But in the end, it's not going to do anything. It's a false sense of security is what it is. So it kind of reminds me of people saying, well, we got a police department, so I don't need a firearm to protect myself. Well, okay, that's great. It makes you feel good if the police department is around, but the police department is going to take 20 minutes to get to my place. So the crime's already going to happen by the time they get here. That's the false sense of security, thinking the police are going to be there when you need them the most. Explaining the differences between preppers and living off-grid, Carolyn had some rabbits eating her cucumber plants, just the leaves. We could go out and buy a bunch of stuff and try to figure out how we're going to keep the rabbits out and buy fencing and buy. But when you're living the lifestyle and you think, well, I don't want to go buy stuff. I want to live off-grid. I want to do this myself. Then you don't go buy, you figure out how to do it yourself. Well, Carolyn put cayenne is amazing, in a spray bottle. She shook it up with water, hot water, shook it up and sprayed her plants with it. Now the rabbits won't eat it. Now we learned this when we were nomads. If you were following us while we were nomads, we had mice eat the wiring in the engine of the truck. And we lost a cylinder. It was a spark plug wire. Right there in the middle of the national forest, I had to redo that. I had to rewire it myself. I had wire and some tape, and I mean, I had a suspicion what happened. Sure enough, they ate that wire. So what we did was we bought some cayenne pepper the next time we were in town and just sprinkled it all over the engine. I mean, just everywhere. We've not even had so much as a squirrel in there. The cayenne pepper's still in there. I haven't taken it out. So if you will, please click that super thanks button down there. I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to think ahead so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.